Today I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Ellie Scott-Gray, Alki neurodivergent doctor, passionate educator, and creative force who's redefining what it means to work in healthcare. After 4.5 years of traditional medical training, Ellie made the courageous decision to step away from the conventional path to focus on healing from severe burnout and to seek new adventures that align with her values and well-being. Ellie's journey took a transformative turn when she discovered her ADHD, a revelation that helped her reframe her entire life and inspired her to embrace a more holistic view of health. Now she channels her passion into educating others about ADHD, burnout, especially among medical professionals and women's health. But Ellie's talents don't stop at medicine. She's also a creative writer, content creator, part-time marketing manager, and even a barista at Coffee Cade in Glasgow, proving that life after medicine can be full of joy, creativity, and connection. Get ready for an open, inspiring conversation about mental health, neurodiversity, the realities of burnout, and the courage it takes to forge your own path, both inside and outside of medicine.
Hi, Ellie. How is it going?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine. You're looking great today, every day.
Thank you very much. Likewise.
Thank you. So, Ellie, we connected over the LinkedIn and I came across, it's something strange for me at this stage to find someone still in early career and passionate and have a success story, but have the courage also to step out. So I would like to give us more brief who you are, what you are doing in very little, and then we will get more further about your study and what you are doing right now.
Who I am? Okay, so my name is Ellie Scott-Gray. So I'm a doctor. I'm a medical doctor, and I did 6 years of medical school, and then I did 4 years of being a doctor. And unfortunately, I graduated during COVID, so I experienced severe burnout, and during that journey as well I even moved to Australia to see if that would give me a better life, and unfortunately it didn't work out the way that I wanted, and I ended up getting even more burnt out, and then subsequently was diagnosed with ADHD. So I came back to the UK, I've taken a little break, and now I'm doing kind of just whatever I want. As in I'm really diving into the things that make me happy. I do a part-time barista, and I'm a writer, and I do a little bit of marketing as well. And I'm just trying to figure out exactly where I fit in the world. But I'm really enjoying the journey rather than just trying to get to the end, which is really nice.
Lovely. Are you happy right now?
I am. Yeah, I'm really happy, which is nice.
Sounds good. So if you don't mind, take me or walk me through your experience and your journey back during your study and what does it draw you to go for the medicine. So in that time, what is the motivate you to go for the medicine and study medicine? Can you share this with us?
Yeah, of course. So I decided I wanted to be a doctor probably around the age of 12, 13. And a big part of that was, unfortunately, growing up, my mum was really unwell. So my mum suffered from cancer and she passed away when I was 10. So we spent a lot of time in hospitals, around medical professionals, and she was also a nurse. And so I thought, you know what, I want to be that person that allows families to be together for longer periods of time and just help people in general. I know that sounds so cliche, but I feel like that is why so many of us become medical professionals, is because we want to help people. But also, it's that typical thing in school. I was smart, I was getting straight A's, and family life was a bit chaotic. So I thought, I need a career that's going to give me stability, a guaranteed job. So that's why I started moving into the medical world and applied for medical school. Thank goodness I got in first time. Thank goodness. Because applying to med school was so hard.
Yeah,
it's so intense. I can't believe we expect 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds to go through that process. I know in Australia and in America, and I think Canada might be the same, I'm not sure. It's mostly a postgrad degree, isn't it? Rather than...
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's very lengthy process here and also difficult. It's very hard to, as you mentioned, when you are 50, 60 to re-qualify your certificate if you came from different country, which is very hard. So your story is crystal clear and it's not cliche. Everyone have motivation to do. So your mother, sorry for your loss. I hope she is in good place right now. Your mother's story motivates you to have the accountability and try to serve and help other. So till now, is it clear? Fine. So, and after that, you get your first foundation year, right? So what happened there?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, so I was at med school for like 6 years, which was a really long time. And I did really love med school, especially the first few years, maybe first 3-4 years, because I love learning. And that was just a really exciting time. You got to speak to patients, you got to learn all this fascinating stuff. And I was really into it. And I thought it was brilliant and was a part of all the societies, thought I wanted to be a surgeon, did absolutely everything I could to put myself in that medical world. But then I got to my second last year. So technically my 5th year of med school, which is when it starts to get really clinical. So that's when you don't really get any lectures anymore. You're constantly on placement, basically working like a full-time job as a doctor, but no nights or anything, and also no pay, which is not ideal. But that's when I first started burning out. I think in hindsight, I didn't really understand what was going on, but now I look back, I can think, you know what? I was probably starting to burn out already. And that continued for my last 2 years of med school. And I even remember my medical school saying to me, they were like, we don't think you should do full-time training because we don't think you would cope. And in hindsight, I should have listened, but I just thought, oh no, like I can do this, like if someone's telling me that I shouldn't do something, it makes me want to do it more. And so I graduated 2020, beat COVID, and went into training in Glasgow as a junior doctor. And it was chaos. It was so difficult. Not only it being COVID, so we were incredibly understaffed and everyone was really stressed and no one really understood what was happening, but also just starting as a junior doctor at all is so difficult. And I'm sure it's the same with many other health professions, but you're looking after people's lives for the first time and you're working crazy hours. And even in the hospitals I worked in, you couldn't even really get food. Like I was living off biscuits and Nescafé coffee were like the 2 things that were keeping me alive. And and I just knew, to be fair, I knew 4th year of med school. That's why I brought it up. That's when I started to really see that maybe medicine isn't for me in the traditional sense. But definitely starting as a junior doctor, like I honestly felt like I was just surviving the whole time.
You start to sorry for that. So you start to realize that very early during your placement,
Yeah.
the sign of burnout and the difficulty you will have it. So was when you are in UK or when you traveled to Australia?
So this was in the UK. So during med school was when I started to figure out that like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. But I was hoping that it was going to just keep getting better. When actually, for me, it just kept getting worse. And I completed my 2 years of junior training in Glasgow in Scotland. And I was really burnt out, really exhausted, really had lost my faith in being a doctor, particularly in the UK. But I thought, you know what? Maybe it's just the NHS that I don't like working in. Maybe I would do better in another country. So I moved to Australia in 2023. So I only took a few months off and then I went over to Australia with my partner and my friends, like excited for this new life, like all my problems were going to be solved. And I pretty much instantly burnt out again as soon as I got there, because not only was it a new country, figuring out how that works, even though it is an English speaking country, it was a completely new place on the opposite side of the world. I had to figure out how to get a bank account, when to buy a car, where was I going to live, and figure out a new system. And I was working in A&E, and A&E sleep patterns are chaotic. It was awful. A&Es are loud, they're bright, sleeping patterns really messed up, and I got really sick. I got to a level of burnout that I'd never really experienced before. And it was
This is because the nature of Australia and moving for a new country doesn't work for you, or because working in the healthcare system overall also keep pushing you?
I think it's a mixture of the two. I think it's, the big change and working in A&E, because a big thing that makes me feel unwell is lack of sleep, which is not ideal if you want to be a doctor. So maybe not the best career path for me. But yeah, those 2 elements. But yeah, I totally agree with you when you say, I think being burnt out in med school and then being burnt out as a junior doctor, I've just been burnt out for, well, I'm doing well now, but I was burnt out for about 5 years.
Mm.
and wasn't really catching on. And I think it's because so many medical professionals were also not doing well. You know, they were also stressed and not sleeping and unable to socialize and see their family and stuff like that. So you kind of forget that that's not a normal way to live. But unfortunately, it hit a head in Australia and it started to affect me physically, mentally. But that's because I got so unwell. That's when I started looking for help. And that's when I got my ADHD diagnosis, and then everything just kind of started clicking and falling into place.
Before we move for this in particular, so I'm curious to know. I came from nursing background, and we had psychology topics during our studying while we are in the school. But more of the time, we are focusing about about the patient. None of those topics it's prepare us what we expect in the hospital, and if we get fatigue or burnout, how to do stress management, how to be practical. Nothing happened there. We faced it when we were in the site. So is this is the same also with the mid school? Nothing prepare you what you expecting to see, how the patient angry, long shifts, swap
Yeah.
between your biological clock, all of those things. Is this is part was from your study, or you face it when you graduated, or you
Yeah.
start placement?
You face it when you graduate. No one really ever prepares you for it. And I actually have a vivid memory of starting my final year of med school. And we were getting a lecture from our head of year being like, oh, this is your last year. This is basically getting you ready to be a doctor. And they just put up a picture of a bull running at a camera. And they were like, the bull is being a doctor and you are the camera. And that's what your life is gonna be like. And I was like, oh my goodness, what? And they try to introduce like a little bit of like mindfulness, or they do say, oh, you need to look after yourself, but they don't really tell you how, and they don't really prepare you actually how difficult it's going to be. And I think a big part of that is, doctors teach doctors, nurses teach nurses, and the people that are teaching you have had these experiences already, but they think of it like almost like a rite of passage. I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but I definitely did as a doctor. When I was talking about how much I was struggling, senior colleagues would be like, oh, it's just a rite of passage, or, oh, we all cry in cupboards. Like, that's so normal. And I was like, oh, I don't want this to be my life. And yeah, and even working as a doctor, I didn't really feel like there was that much support, to be honest.
Yeah, I have it in the past, and to be honest, in that day, I wasn't aware. My feeling, what is this is normal, like what your friend telling you, or this is something it's not good on my for my health and for my psychological status. I don't know in that time, but I realized from the first day I am not good to stay in front of the patient 12. I like what I'm doing, but it's not my character. I cannot. You need more of commitment, and the lifestyle is not work for me. So at that time I was for 3 years just try to balance. Shall I stay in the hospital or move? But that take from me 3 years. One of the objective I decided that time, I will not step out until I get the enough experience, which will help me and equip me with the knowledge to go outside. So I'm assuming if I am in your shoe, studying as a medicine, studying as a medical doctor, and do almost 6 to 10 years of placement, and still when I just started to work as a real doctor, I decided to go out. This is extremely hard for me if I am a new. So what is motivate you? Listen, this is the last day. I will not complete. And how you make it?
As in, like, what made me decide to leave and just change my path?
Okay. How you changed your path in the first iteration in that time?
Well, to be fair, I feel like, unfortunately, like I didn't really have that much of a choice. Even though I knew medicine wasn't for me, you get stuck in it. You put so much effort into being there, so much studying, so many years. All your pals are also in the profession.
And you mentioned you are nerd, straight A.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, your peers as well, you're all convinced, oh wait, actually being a doctor is all I can do. That's the only thing I can do. And it's not true, but you do truly believe it. So I pushed myself to such an extreme, and I kept pushing myself to be a doctor, that I made myself really sick. And I actually had to stop working. Like, I didn't really have a choice anymore. Luckily, my contract in Australia finished. I had to come home, and I took 5 months off work, like off any work at all. So it wasn't really a choice. Like, I didn't really plan to leave.
How
I
was
just
those
had
5 years
to.
of, sorry, how was those 5 months look like when you back from Australia and just re-evaluate your situation and try to plan it for your future? Can you remember how it's look in that time?
Yeah, definitely. So I came home, and yeah, that 5 months, it was hard. It was so hard because not only did I have to rest, which is something that I've not really ever done for a long period of time. You know, I started working at 13 years old, and I've been working since then, and I've never taken a break. So not only did I have to try and relax and figure out how to heal myself, but honestly, like, it was really scary. Like, I convinced myself I was never going to be able to work again because burnout had changed me as a person so significantly. And I'd gone from being really outgoing and extroverted and excited about life to really quiet and wanting just to hide away from everyone. And yeah, and I just didn't really know what I was going to do. Like, thankfully, I had a little bit of savings, and I had a very supportive partner who worked and helped look after me while I wasn't doing well. But yeah, it was really, really difficult. And I do feel really thankful that I was able to take that time. And I tried really hard to learn about how to rest appropriately. And I read about like the 7 different ways of rest, which is like creative rest, social rest, physical rest, and really tried to implement that into my day-to-day life. But it was really hard. It was so hard. Like, I constantly did have a voice in the back of my head that was like, you need to work, like, how are you going to go back to work? Yeah, it was really tricky.
So after that 5 months, during that 5 months, you were diagnosed as an ADHD, or in that time still wasn't diagnosed for you, and you are not aware about your situation?
So literally just before I came back from Australia, so a year ago now, I was diagnosed with ADHD. Yeah, ADHD had never. That was your question, right? I haven't just made that up.
Yes. Yeah, so you discovered this while you are in Australia, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
while you are in Australia,
exactly.
what does it drive you to go as a medical doctor seeking for the help? What is push you to go and ask other, I need help?
It was actually predominantly my partner that urged me to get help because my symptoms of ADHD, I didn't understand that that's what I was experiencing. I was really emotionally dysregulated. I was getting upset about everything. I had really intense sensory issues, light, sound, touch, like everything was way too much for me, and it was making me really distressed. And I was at home one day, and we were just watching TV, and I was in tears because the TV was on too loud, and I couldn't understand why that was affecting me so intensely. And my partner said to me, he was like, this is not a normal way to live. Like, something is happening, and I think you need to go and speak to someone about it. So I went and I found a psychologist to chat to. And yeah, she diagnosed me with severe combined, which is hyperactive and inattentive ADHD. And it was completely unexpected. I had never thought in a million years that I had ADHD. Like, I'd seen it on social media. You get a lot of people on social media saying, oh, you might have ADHD if you experience these symptoms. But I just kept thinking, but everyone's like that. Like, everyone's got those symptoms. That's just life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never understood I have ADHD, and that's why I have found so much of my life so complicated and so hard. And it's such a cliche thing to say, but it did just make my life completely make sense. And that was probably, so I got diagnosed by the psychologist first, and then I went and saw a psychiatrist and got diagnosed again by a psychiatrist. But that was in February of 2024, and I came back to Scotland in March 2024, so only a month before I
So
left.
that the main advantage and the main favor is came for your partner, where he advised you to go and seek the help. But you as a doctor, you didn't thought that this is the sign and symptom. You thought this is normal as because everyone it's have it and you don't have it. So having sometime a good networking and good social life will help you to overcome those challenges. So after
Mhm.
your diagnosis, do you change anything in your lifestyle? You started to adapt your behavior, or still you have the same challenge?
So I significantly changed my life because being burnt out and having ADHD, it it was awful. It was really, really difficult. And because not only was it affecting my mental health, but it was affecting my physical health. I developed severe acne and my hair started falling out and I developed chronic fatigue. And I was like, this is just not a good way
Normal.
to live. Yeah, this is not normal. This is not a good way to live. I was miserable. And so I kept thinking, right, I need to significantly change what I'm doing. So I stopped that from happening because I can't go back to that. Yeah, I left medicine and I just thought, you know what? This is like, if you needed a sign that medicine wasn't working, this is it.
It is.
So left medicine and I knew I wasn't going to go back into traditional training or traditional medicine. I just couldn't hack it. And tried to change my diet. I really heavily focused on sleep. So the thing that really knocks me off my perch and makes me feel unwell is poor sleep or lack of a good sleeping pattern.
Which we will not have it if you are a doctor at all. In all
Yeah,
cases.
exactly. Honestly, I actually don't even know how I managed to be a doctor for 4.5 years. Like, no idea. And so focused on sleep, I focused on rest, I focused on diet, even things like socializing, that's really important. And I really dived also into my creativity. So, at school, I was like, do I want to be a writer and an artist or do I want to be a doctor? And I picked doctor instead. And unfortunately, not even just simply when you're burnt out, but when you're working loads, your creativity can really dwindle. So I hadn't been a painter or a writer in years, but I knew that's what made me happy. I was like looking into what really brought me to life as a child, and it was definitely creativity. So I started painting and I started writing and I really started to connect with myself. But I think the hardest part actually was learning how to be nice to myself. Like I'd been so hard on myself through my entire journey of being a doctor. Like, why aren't I as smart as everybody else? Why can everyone get through a day without crying? Why am I so agitated and fidgety and so different? And I was just horrible to myself. And don't get me wrong, like I still have days where I'm like, oh, why am I like this? Like, for instance, I was 20 minutes late to this podcast because I don't understand time.
Not me.
Yeah, no, it was me. And I thought we started at 2:30 and we didn't. We started at 2. So stuff like that happens all the time. But that's just who I am, And I've been really grateful that I've been able to have the space and the support to learn that it's okay.
This will take
to
me
be
for
who I
the
am.
point where I started to see it, because I have friends also, they have a ADHD. She is a smart, she is a brilliant, but when then it's become panic for her, I can feel her when she is very exhausted, has fatigue, and
Yeah.
sometimes just need to relax and someone to calm her down. So what you share with me, and based on my knowledge as a normal person, I want to ask you, as a doctor, work and have the experience, for healthcare professional, when they have this burnout or have any psychological diagnosis, is this potentially, or there is a potential harm for the patient affecting them, or this is too far to reach for the patient to get any medical error or incident came for the patient because you are distracted, or as you mentioned, your creativity is dropped some time. So it is when you have day to day, nothing play as what is written in the book. You need to be dynamic. You need to, especially if you work in the ICU, ER. So you need to be creative to find a solution. Sometimes, especially in when they limited resources, like what happened on COVID. So you need to find a solution. So assuming a doctor working in ED, having ADHD, this might impact the patient.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think, if you have ADHD and it's managed and you're looking after yourself, like, you can be a brilliant doctor. Like, there are so many benefits to being a doctor and having ADHD. Like you said, like the creativity, the thinking on your feet, being calm in an extreme situation or an emergency. Those are humans. We need to look after ourselves, be cared for. It is different in other countries, but I think particularly in the UK, in a lot of circumstances, that's not happening. We're hemorrhaging medical professionals from the NHS. People are leaving in boatloads, and it's because we're not able to if we're not able to look after ourselves, there is no way that we're going to be able to look after another person, you know? And, you know, as a patient, like I think, and everyone's going to be a patient at some point, like me included, you included, and I would want a medical professional that is well and is able to look after themselves and me. And so unfortunately, yeah, like when we're burnt out, when we're exhausted, when we're unwell, and that can be from a mental or physical point of view, it does affect our care, or it can do, you know, it can affect our care for our patients. And, you know, there were definitely, I was really lucky that like nothing major happened, but there were definitely circumstances when I look back at patient interaction where I'm like, I stopped caring. You know, I was so burnt out, I stopped caring. And that's really sad because I feel like that's a part of my personality that I really like. And that was always the feedback I got as well from senior colleagues was your empathy is great. And that is a part of myself that I really like. And I just stopped having it for a while.
Yeah, absolutely
know.
correct. And this is one of the main characters for any healthcare provider, the empathy. If we don't have that empathy, it will be very hard on us, on them. So from your point of view, how this can be managed or fixed to support the healthcare professional who having a burnout during their journey? So is anything can happen or fix during the school or during where you are working in the hospital, something the hospital they can do, or the council or regulatory body, whatever you name it. So from your point of view, what is the solution?
That's so difficult. I ask myself this question all the time. And from a large scale, I'm not sure. Like there does need to be support and education from medical school all the way up and then through being a doctor as well. Like I worked in ICU during COVID and they were such a lovely and supportive department, more so than any other one I worked in. And they were offering free therapy and group therapy to all of their doctors and their nurses. And that was amazing. Unfortunately, I didn't see that anywhere else, but that was like, wow. And so I would really love for the bigger picture to be something like that. But from a personal level, I think the key is if you need space or time or less hours or more support, do not feel bad about it. You know, like but that's really difficult to say because, you know, like I felt really guilty for not being able to perform at a level that I thought I should.
For anyone having burning out, how they can do that. From my side, I never ever encourage anyone to step out from their career, but encourage them to take care for themselves and not to be harsh on themselves, as you mentioned. So this is something, unfortunately, we started to normalize it and become normal in our community, which is something is not good. It's not nice. So hopefully we will find some solutions somehow. Let's move for the brightness on your story. So you now moved from the healthcare system and start working at where?
Yeah, so I work as a barista in the south side of Glasgow.
How come?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it is like a complete 180.
With all respect for all of them, but the change is massive, and knowing someone nerd and have your social support, how this transition happened? It's happened with your network, the close friends and your partner smoothly, or you had any resistance what you are doing? Think about something else.
We've covered some incredible ground today, but our conversation is far from over. In our next episode, we'll dive deeper and explore even more fascinating insights. Stay tuned for part 2 of our conversation on uncharted narratives. If this episode sparked something in you, here's how you can keep our mission alive. Subscribe to Uncharted Narratives Certiat. Leave us a 5-star review. It helps more amazing people discover our stories. Share an episode that moved you with a colleague or friend. Connect with me on LinkedIn and join our healthcare innovation community. Together, we're not just telling stories. Until next time, stay curious, stay passionate, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in healthcare. See you in the next episode of Uncharted Narratives Certiat.